We call it Free Therapy Thursday. When we get an email and it's just above our pay grade, we bring in Andrea Burkly of the Honest Women podcast, which we will do in just 1 second for this email.
Yeah, the title of the email was like, Save My Marriage. And we're like, let's call an expert. The email reads, I've been putting this off for years now, and it's only getting worse. I'm a longtime listener and would like your help to resolve a 28-year dispute. Ooh. Long story short, I had a supposedly good friend of mine that called my husband repeatedly daily, telling him that I was meeting and sleeping with her husband because they would call me and call him and we did not answer. Granted, I worked for Delta and he worked for Ford at the time, and we were both working when this supposedly happened. Well, it escalated, and my husband, at the encouragement of this so-called friend, has all this time been unsure of whether our daughter is his. He is convinced that I have cheated not once, but he still accuses me of it practically daily, and I have never cheated. I had open heart surgery at 42 with a quintuple bypass. This is extremely stressful, and I want to clear it up once and for all, and I think I deserve an apology. We got a divorce 2 years into the marriage because he cheated, and this friend told him that I said I would get him back one way or another. We remarried, and I ended up having to get a lawyer to draw up a cease and desist letter for this friend to stop contacting my husband. Come to find out, she was the one cheating, and they ended up divorcing, and he admitted that he made all of it up to get back at her, but my husband does not believe that. Man, this is messy.
Complicated.
With all that said, I do not want my daughter to be subjected to a DNA test and feel like her daddy does not love her. She's now 26 years old and has issues dealing with life on her own and how this world is going now. Everything is so expensive and she's struggling. He has agreed to a lie detector test. Jesus. And this is where you come in. Please help me settle this once and for all. I would be forever grateful. We have been together for 35 years, and this is just ridiculous. Your loyal P1 listener.
All right, before we turn this over to Andrea here, a couple of things jump out at me. First of all, she says, long story short. That's not a short story.
There's a lot of detail to take in there. Yeah.
A 28-year dispute. Now, I'm sure she's exaggerating, but she says that he brings it up daily. So let's say she's exaggerating and he brings it up every week. For 28 years, I mean, at some point or another, I'm going to have to say, okay, I got to let this thing go.
You would think so. You would hope so.
Yeah, at some point, it's genuinely only affecting you more than it's affecting anybody else. You got to let that hurt go.
That's crazy.
It sounds insane.
All right, Andrea Burkly from the Honest Women podcast. Legally, I got to tell you, they are on my network, which is Pioneer. Hey, Andrea.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so I think there's a lot to chew on here. Is there anything called a 28-year dispute?
Yeah, everything about this stands out to me. And let me just start by saying that I do not think that this is a topic for the Bert show. This is a topic for Maury Povich. I wish that was still on the air, because if they were on that show, what would happen is they'd zoom in on the couple. They would sling accusations at each other just like they have for 28 years. But then they would zoom back out and we would all see the person who is really being hurt by this, which is their 26-year-old daughter. And just about the time that we got real uncomfortable with the fact that her parents had been arguing about her paternity for the entirety of her life, we would take a deep breath of relief because we knew we were getting a DNA test. And that's how you settle this once and for all.
Really? So you say go for the DNA test?
100%. Having a lie detector test on the Bert show is the same song and a different verse. Does she really think that after 28 years of fighting about this, that a lie detector test is going to put this to bed? It will not.
What do you think about getting the daughter's DNA behind her back so she's not involved?
Ooh. I just can't imagine that their daughter is not already involved. I mean, this is a messy situation, right? So it's not like I think they've been keeping this family secret under wraps for the entirety of her life. This is a matter that they're talking about in public, in front of her. I'm assuming that there's a lot of just contentious fighting. So she already knows. So I don't even know why we would try to hide it from her. I feel like if I were her, I'd be like, please, just figure this out. Let's do the test and be done with it. It's relief for her, right?
Yeah, I think anytime a sentence starts with, should we do it behind her back? You're getting into some really cloudy territory there.
Yeah, I know. I do. Obviously, like my heart goes out to the daughter because she's literally in the middle of this, didn't ask for any of this. And it's obvious the tension between her mom and dad because they divorced and they got back together. So I think there's other things probably at play here as well. But for this to be going on for as long as it has, like I was just exhausted reading the email, let alone living out that.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm guessing the daughter would say, yes, take my DNA just so we never have to talk about this ever again.
100%.
Right. And if I were going to see you guys as a couple, I'm a couples counselor, I would make this a requirement of therapy. A lot of times we talk about feelings. This is just a fact, and we need to know what the fact is here.
Andrea, let me ask you kind of a connecting question here, because I think this one is probably more common than the one we're seeing here in this email. If there's infidelity in the relationship, right? I know everybody has a different timetable of when the healing stops, but at some point there has to be like, okay, if I'm going to stay in this thing, I am going to forgive you. How do you get to that point? And is there some kind of psychological, mathematical formula?
Yeah, I hear you looking for an answer, so I'm going to give you one. If I was working with a couple and they were actively working on recovering from infidelity, both people actively working on it, I let the couples that I work with know it's going to be at least 2 years of hard work before this stops becoming a daily issue that you're dealing with, whether that's with kind of intrusive moments that the betrayed partner is experiencing or repeated fights. It's going to be at least 2 years. But this couple is not working on it. They're not working on it. And I don't recommend you sweep it under the rug by just ignoring the question of paternity. They're going to fight about this for the next 26 years if they don't get this settled.
And in this instance, he's accusing her of something that she's adamant she didn't do. So I almost think it would be better if like she, if it had happened and she could just own up to it and then they can move on. But here they're just butting heads because he's like, you cheated. And she's like, no, I didn't.
Right. And he says that she continues to cheat. So what is going on here? But I have to ask the question, like, why hasn't this been done? Where is the block here with the DNA test? A DNA test costs less than $100, according to my recent Google search. It's a swab.
Okay.
I will give them the $100.
No, right. But only much better use.
Only if we can read the results on the air.
We're going straight to
comes with a price.
We're going to Povich. The Bert Show's going Povich. Okay, that's fine with me. Andrea, tell them about Honest Women real quick, and tell them why it's a little bit different than your like normal like therapy podcast and what you got coming up.
Yeah, so we talk about the things that everyone else is thinking but doesn't say out loud. And we also share our own stories. So a lot of times with therapy podcasts, you have just experts coming in from on high telling you how to live your life. And we don't do that. We get into the nitty gritty. We talk real talk. And, we're pretty funny too.
And what do you got coming up?
We right now are focusing on some foundations of mental health. So we're talking about things like sleep and exercise and mindfulness. And we're doing it in a way that we get into why this stuff is so difficult. We all know that we're supposed to live healthy lives, right? So why is it so hard?
It's called the Honest Women Podcast. You can find it right where? Honest Women Podcast. Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
The Bert Show.